So you made the announcement, and not to a lot of people's surprise, that you are running for re-election to be the Secretary of State. But I want to talk about the pathway, because it's fascinating. It's got to be good for you to want to be wanted. There are many people that wanted you to run for the House seat in your hometown.
Yeah.
And you decided not to run for that office.
It's super humbling. There
were many people also that there was a possibility of in the future a gubernatorial race.
Yeah.
And so why run for re-election for this office? What was the decider to say yes to this when you said no to others?
Well, it's super cornball, right? And it sounds very cheesy. I love what I do. I love my life. I love where I'm at. We're doing an amazing job. And the 2024 election is a perfect example of that. We've got now a path to rebuild confidence in our election systems. We've got a path to rebuild confidence in parts of governance that we should never have lost confidence in the first place. And that's a genuine battle for like the heart and soul of America, right? Where we can get back to the place where Republicans and Democrats can just have policy discussions without screaming about you're a liar, you're an evil person, you're going to hell, because we can believe in the same set of facts. And what I think having someone stick to this kind of office, particularly something so ministerial, something that ought to be so behind the scenes, and just doing the job, which is what we've done.
Yeah.
Just doing the job is the kind of example through work, right? And that's solid leadership too, that I can continue to bring to the state. And I think it's important for Arizona.
So the changes that are happening is, as it stands right now, you are first in line to take over the governor's office if the governor leaves. That's going to change. We're going to have a lieutenant governor.
Yes.
How does your job change otherwise with the new changes that are coming?
It's so much better. It's so much better because by not being first in line as the lieutenant governor, right, by removing that part from the Secretary of State's office, you're pulling away from some of the politics. You're pulling away from the palace intrigue. You're pulling away from, ooh, do they get along? Or has somebody got an, that stuff that doesn't exist anymore, at least for the Secretary of State as an office, right? So you're one step removed from the palace intrigue. And I think that's very, very good, particularly when you're talking about election administration, because it just has to be depoliticized, right? We've got to pull it away from the left versus right, blue versus red. And I think this actually helps. And while I had one of my mentors was like, you're running to get reelected into a diminished office. And I said, I think it's a much more empowered office, because now that veneer of what's his next political move pulls away a little bit.
And it's only diminished if you have those higher political aspirations. If you aren't looking and hoping to be the governor, I guess it doesn't.
But look, you know what? Okay, truth-telling time. Everybody wants to move up. Yeah. Everybody in their job wants to move up. Everybody in their family wants to do better. Every teacher wants to teach better. Every doctor wants to heal better. We all want to go up and achieve more. So to say, oh, this removes that ambition, that's nonsense, okay? And it's a little Pollyanna. The truth is, this office deserves to be pulled away from the politics of the next in line. And I really hope that we can do that.
There are some of the offices that are, by nature, we have elections, so they are partisan elections. But there are some of those offices, you're right, that are overtly nonpartisan. Secretary of State is one of them, sheriff, attorney general. These are offices that should not be partisan, but they have to have partisan, and that's the way we run our elections. I don't know what the other solution would be. School boards are nonpartisan elections, but I don't know how
many city councils and seats are nonpartisan.
I just don't know how you could do that without identifying, and I don't know why it would be important to identify somebody's political leanings to run the office you're running.
Well, I don't know that you absolutely have to have the partisan moniker behind it, but there is a certain set of accountability that goes along with that, right? And there is a certain set of soul searching that has to happen. If you've got somebody from a party who's out there saying, no, we shouldn't vote anymore, and that party is saying, no, we shouldn't vote anymore, that's a problem. And that party gets identified with that problem. So the leaders, i.e. the candidates and the people who are part of that party, have to sort of rein some of that in and move along. And I think the party infrastructure is good. It can be poisonous. It can be corrosive, but it does help sort of mediate the conversation. And so I'm okay with the process as it sits right now. I'm also okay with a discussion into changing it. Change is okay. It's the only thing we can absolutely depend on is that everything changes.
Right.
And I cringe when I hear people saying, oh, well, it's not like yesterday I was talking to some of the guys here and they're like, oh, it's all changed. It's all different. And I'm like, yeah, great. It's supposed to change. We're supposed to shift and progress and move forward. Otherwise, we get stagnant and rotten. And who the hell wants that?
So what are the changes or the improvements that need to happen in this office, no matter who wins it? And what would you do to make those things happen if you win re-election?
Yeah, well, there's several things. So first and foremost, some of the stuff we're working on now. And there's no guarantee through the partisan budget process that's going to happen now. So a continued struggle towards full state funding of the ACP, the Address Confidentiality Program that protects victims of domestic violence and stalking. That's really important. Julie Willoughby, Republican, she's sponsoring a bill on that right now. We hope we can do that. And if we don't, that's one thing that has to move forward. Fully funding the Arizona's voter registration system, the AVID system. I don't know that that's going to happen this year, but that is something that we have to continue to educate lawmakers about, continue to educate the executive about, to make sure that we can have that system that helps all 13 of the smaller counties, because Maricopa and Pima are okay, but that's just because they've got a lot more resources, right? Making sure that we have a complete business one-stop system, which is that website that was created under the Ducey administration. I've been a huge cheerleader of that so that entrepreneurs and business people in greater Arizona can do all of their business with the government, right? The state registering for this and licensure for
Which
that
is the part of your
online.
office that people don't pay enough attention to.
Yeah, and it's hugely important.
Yes.
Right? The Business Services Division of the Secretary of State's office is very, very important. So that's got to be bolstered. And underlying all of this is the understanding of our history and heritage. Look, our state library and archives are woefully underfunded. And because of cuts coming out of Washington, D.C., I had to let 6 people go already out of the state library, those digital navigators that help people all across Arizona, particularly in rural Arizona. And I've got 11 more that are going to be done as of May 29th, unless our lawsuit is successful to keep those programs funded. That means public libraries, the one institution that has established the United States of America as a place where information can flow freely and innovation can blossom. It's been the public libraries where those inventors and those crazy folks out there in the hinterlands can get information, put it in their heads, and explode with ideas that help cure diseases and help create industries and all this stuff. Those public libraries are under threat right now because somebody in Washington, D.C. thinks that they're wasteful. And that's probably because they've never actually opened a book and read it. And I'm really passionate about this. Our library and archives are woefully underfunded. The Paulette Rosenbaum building where our archives is, it's one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive building that the state owns because of the nature of the technology we use in the state archives. And it's already 20 years past due for a replacement. And we cannot get anyone to listen to the fact that our history and our heritage, our libraries and the resources that build them need to be backed up more solidly. And so second term of mine, in fact, throughout the rest of this term, as I've done so far, we're going to be advocating much more forcefully for that because this is super important to the future.
When you look at the totality of what you've done so far, what are some of the things you would say are accomplishments that you're happy you've gotten to? And what are some things that you wish had been done quicker and maybe have been not come along as quickly as you thought they should?
Well, I think the one thing that voters can recognize is the text messaging. The ballot tracking system is now available for all of Arizona. We did that through the Secretary's office. We did it in Maricopa when I was recorder here. We did it down in Pima when I was the chief deputy recorder down there for a couple of years. And now every Arizona voter who's on the early ballot list can get a text message when their ballot's coming to them, when the election department receives it, that sort of thing, which is great for voters. So I'm super happy about being able to implement that. We've got a lot of other behind-the-scenes technological things that we've really taken care of. One that we're working on that has only been slightly delayed is an improvement in one system that's going to blossom into improvements in several other systems. So right now we're working on the lobbyist reporting system. The lobbyists have to do financial reports just like everybody else does. That system is being upgraded right now. We're only slightly delayed because we can't pay our developers as much as we'd like to, and they go find better jobs. But we're on track. Once that's done, then we can move that technology into working on candidates and making that filing better so that folks can really track where the money goes in a way that actually works for the media, for voters, for candidates and everybody else. So these are some of the transparency things that I wish we could have done a lot more. But some of the other stuff that we've already done well, I think I'm super excited about. 18 of our 20 servers are up to date now, even though we had to scrimp and scrape and shut down some other stuff in the office because we just didn't have the money to do everything. So I've got to prioritize. But, some of those voters, some of those servers when we got to the office, they were almost old enough to register to vote. And you can't have technology that old in this type of
No,
office.
you can't. We replace our cell phones once a year.
And the one last thing, that's in the budget request right now for us is the election night reporting system. I mean, it's not cheap, but given the billions of dollars that we spend, it's worth it. Our election night reporting system, as I discussed with you before, it depends on one guy, and he's late 60s, early 70s. He's going to retire, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And all of it is in his head. We are literally sitting with this guy every minute we can, getting the information out of his head because it was written in code that doesn't even exist anymore. So this is a real vulnerability for the state of Arizona, and we keep falling on deaf ears when it comes to this request because I guess people just don't realize how important the back end is. So for all those engineers out there, all those technicians out there that are turning screws and hanging wire and doing all of that stuff, God bless you. You're the ones that make it happen for the rest of us. And we've got to appreciate that work and those systems.
It's always good to catch up with you. I wish you the best, and hopefully we'll be talking throughout this campaign.
I'll be back whenever you want, Mike.
All right, it's the Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, with us.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.